Okay, good morning everybody. Welcome to the self-paced English learning course. We have used about 2 weeks to talk about how to do extensive reading. And the first week I told you about this PPT file and the details about extensive reading. And the second week we went to the reading corner and get to know the books there, okay? So today I want to show you how you can actually use the top-down reading skill to read extensively, okay? So the first thing I want to do is to review a little bit about how to read when you do extensive reading. You might want to take a look at this PPT slide and let's refresh your memory a little bit, okay? This is about how to read. When you do extensive reading, when you want to read to understand the general picture and develop the reading habit in order to enjoy the pleasure of reading, how should you read? This is a very important thing, right? Okay. So here, please remember, when you read, let's review. First thing to remember is that read for general understanding. Always remember that. General understanding, that's enough. You don't have to go into a lot of details. That means when you read through it, if there are words you don't know, don't worry. You can usually guess the meaning from the context. 通常都可以从前后文，其实就可以知道大概的意思啊。我们也讲过 many words only appear once, and it doesn't influence your understanding of the general picture at all, okay? And the second thing is focus on meaning rather than on the language. Meaning means general idea. Language means every vocabulary word, all the grammatical structure. Don't worry about that too much. Most important thing is that you read and you understand and you enjoy the story, okay? And read rapidly. Read, go through it very rapidly. But sometimes you might want to slow down a little bit, right? You say, oh, this part is especially beautiful. I like the description very much. Can I slow down instead of reading very rapidly? Certainly you can do that, okay? Reading rapidly means that you don't slow down because of a word you don't know. But sometimes you want to slow down and savor the beautiful writing. Certainly you can do that, okay? So maybe we should modify it a little bit into like reading according to your mood, okay? Reading according to your own pace, okay? And the next one, compete only against yourself. You don't have to compete with anyone sitting next to you who's reading very fast. It's not necessary to do that, okay? Enjoy yourself and no pressures of testing. Nobody's going to give you a test at the end of your reading. The most important thing is you enjoy the story and develop your reading habit. Okay, so this is how to read. Main focus is focus on the meaning rather than on the language. Okay, so now we want to put theory into practice. And this is the book I've chosen to show you. I don't know if you still remember these two books. They were both written by the very famous writer, Dale Carnegie. Okay, and these two books, first one, this one is How to Win Friends and Influence People. And the other one is How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. And today we're going to use this book to show you. Okay, and this is Mr. Dale Carnegie. You know that he has this very famous Carnegie training courses in which you can learn wonderful interpersonal communication skills. And in those courses, they use these two books, especially this one, How to Win Friends and Influence People. So today we're going to use, apart from this book, an excerpt, 就摘录其中一部分. And then I'm going to show you how you can read using the top-down processing. Okay, so this is a story from the book. The book is this thick, okay? So I remember last time I took you to Reading Corner, I showed you the book, right? If I don't guide you through and read and let you read an excerpt, you probably would never pick up the book, because when you look at the book, you're saying, wow, it's not a small book. But now let's read it together. You're going to find the stories are very interesting, because these are real stories, real life stories. And it's very inspiring also. Okay, so let's read it together. This is a story about Bob Hoover. Okay, so it says here, Bob Hoover, a famous test pilot and frequent performer at air shows, was returning to his home in Los Angeles from an air show in San Diego. As described in the magazine Flight Operation, at 300 feet in the air, both engines suddenly stopped. By deft maneuvering, he managed to land the plane, but it was badly damaged, although nobody was hurt. Okay, so this is the first paragraph. When you read through it, there might be some words you don't know. For example, pilot, right, or air shows, or like this one. I guess for many of you, these two words are new. Deft maneuvering, okay? But when you do top-down kind of reading, you don't worry too much about the words you don't know, because you can certainly guess them. Let's take pilot and air shows as an example. Maybe you don't know pilot, maybe you don't know air shows, but when you keep reading, then you're going to see that he returning. He flew in the air, and then he was at 300 feet in the air, and then engine suddenly stopped. Okay, so when you read through it, you can certainly imagine, oh, his job is to fly an airplane. Okay, that's his job, and that's why we called him a pilot. And if you read more closely, you can see that he's a test pilot. Test pilot means pilots who are especially skillful, because test pilots are usually the pilot who test an airplane. So you need to be very skillful. And also about air shows. Maybe at the beginning you couldn't understand it, but I guess you all have some background knowledge about air shows. Because here in Taiwan, on Double Ten's Day, 国庆日的时候，我们是不是也会有 air shows, right? Okay? So if you have some background knowledge, you're going to find that you don't have to check the dictionary, and you can understand the meaning there. And it says here, when he was very high in the air, both engines suddenly stopped. So how many engines? Guess how many engines this airplane had? 2, right? Because it said both engines. So you could imagine that was a very dangerous situation. Both engines suddenly stopped when the airplane was still high in the air. And then the next sentence says, by deft maneuvering, he managed to land the airplane. When you manage to do something, although it's very difficult, but you still find a way to complete that. So he managed to land the airplane. And why? Why was he able to manage to land the airplane? Because he had deft maneuvering. Then you could certainly guess. Deft maneuvering. Deft means skillful or not skillful. Certainly it's skillful, right? So deft means skillful, 技术非常好. And maneuvering, he could maneuver a vehicle, okay? Can you drive a car? That's also maneuver, a kind of maneuvering, okay? So he deft maneuvering, that means he was very skillful in flying the airplane, okay? But both engine and the airplane was badly damaged, but nobody was hurt, okay? So you could imagine the situation, very, very dangerous, because it's a matter of life and death. And it was terribly dangerous, and the airplane was badly damaged also, okay? But luckily, unbelievably, nobody was hurt, okay? When you read, try to be an active reader, because these are life stories. 他们是真正的故事，所以你读的时候不是就这样读过去。You could imagine, put yourself in Bob Hoover's shoes. Imagine a situation. You were flying, and then high in the air, both engines suddenly stopped, no power at all, and you had to manage by your skillful maneuvering to land the airplane without hurting anybody. Okay, so if you were Bob Hoover, what would you feel when you finally safely landed. Okay, so what would you feel, right? Okay, so now let's go on to the next paragraph. Hoover's first act after the emergency landing was to inspect the airplane's fuel. Just as he suspected, the World War II propeller airplane he had been flying had been filled with jet fuel rather than gasoline. Wow, so that's the reason why there was the accident, okay? What's the reason, you see? His first reaction is to inspect the fuel, okay? Maybe you don't know the word fuel, but then if you keep reading, you can somehow guess, because it says that the plane had been filled with jet fuel rather than gasoline. So you could certainly imagine fuel is the kind of thing that you put into the airplane so the airplane could fly, okay? Just like when you drive a car, you have to go to the gas station and you have to fill it up with gasoline, okay? So you know that 我们说开车要加油，加的那个油不是 oil, okay? 加的那个油其实是 gasoline. That's why we call it a gas station, right? Okay? So it says here, you know that it's some kind of fuel. So even though you're not sure which fuel is the right fuel for this Second World War airplane, you know something's wrong with the fuel, then that's enough. And this is called top-down reading, okay? And of course, after you read through the story, if you really want to know the detail, you can come back and check the answers, okay? And check those words you don't know. For example, when you read closer, you can find that this word fuel. So you see airplane's fuel, that means it's a noun, right? And then the airplane has been, this one fuel, right? And then has been flying, had been fueled with jet fuel. So you know this word fuel can be used both as a noun and a verb, okay? And this is the best way to remember vocabulary because it's in a sentence, it has the context. Then you remember, oh, I can use fuel as a verb, okay? And also mention the World War II propeller airplane. If you really don't know what is World War II propeller airplane, at least you can guess. This airplane is old or new. Certainly it's old because it was used in Second World War, okay? 所以现在其实只是拿来做表演用的 because you know he's a test pilot and performer at air show, right? Okay, and suppose you really want to know Second World War II propeller airplane, what it looks like. Best way, I don't know if you still remember. Best way is to use Google image. 用 Google 图片 key in World War II propeller airplane, and you're going to see a lot of propeller airplanes there. Okay, and it said that this airplane has been filled with jet fuel rather than gasoline. So which kind of fuel did this airplane really need? It should be gasoline because it's old, so it still use gasoline. 但是当时候它被装的是什么？当时被装的是 jet fuel. Okay, jet fuel. Jet airplane. Okay, 我们通常坐客机，我们不是都叫喷射客机吗？喷射客机就是 jet airplane. Jet airplane, that means it flies very fast, okay? So it's a very old airplane. It didn't use jet fuel. It used gasoline, okay? So you see, 其实我刚在做的是什么？我刚在做的还是比较像 intensive reading thing, okay? I explained the words to you. I told you how you could get to know those words, okay? But when you read through it, you only need to understand something's wrong with the fuel. That's enough. Okay, and that's why the accident happened. That's why there was the emergency landing. That's enough, okay? So you see, something's wrong with the fuel. And how could that be possible? What did the mechanic do? You know, a mechanic's job is to fix something, fix a car, or service a car, service an airplane. That's a mechanic's job, right? And this is not an ordinary airplane. It's a very precious Second World War propeller airplane. So I believe the mechanic should have known that the kind of fuel he had to put in should have been gasoline, right? So So what would the mechanic react, right? Okay, and what would be Bob Hoover's reaction? Let's go on to the next slide. Upon returning to the airport, he asked to see the mechanic who had serviced his airplane. The young man was sick with the agony of his mistake. Tears streamed down his face as Hoover approached. He had just caused the loss of a very expensive plane and could have caused the loss of 3 lives as well. Okay? So when you read this paragraph, the focus is, do you understand the young man's feeling, the young mechanic's feeling? Okay, if you could understand his reaction, how did he react to this very terrible accident, then you understand the main idea already. Okay, and when you read through it, I guess you could understand his reaction because you see some keywords there. For example, tears streamed down his face. Tears streamed down. Stream is a small river, right? 小河嘛. So tears streamed down his face. That means he felt so terrible he was crying. Okay? And Bob Hoover asked to see the mechanic who serviced his airplane. You could imagine the mechanic must have felt very awful and felt very, very terrified because he was afraid that Bob Hoover would scold him, would blame him. Okay? I think we could certainly imagine this young mechanic's feelings. Okay? And this is called active reading. And you understand the general picture. Then you are into the story. 很多时候同学读故事的时候，太关心那些不认识的生字片语。You're not into the story. You're not enjoying the story. You're not reading it in order to understand what the story wants to tell you. But when you do extensive reading, when you read using top-down reading skill, you want to understand the main idea, and then you can go on, and you can understand what the story wants to tell you. Okay, so here, Bob Hoover asked to see the young mechanic, and the young mechanic was feeling very, very sorry, very, very bad. Okay, and there might be some words you don't know. For example, it says here, the young man was sick with the agony of his mistake. Okay, maybe you don't know the word agony, but you certainly know the word sick. Okay, and so here you want to ask yourself a question. This sick, we can be physically sick when we don't feel well, right? But we can also be mentally sick because of anger or because of the fear that is too strong. Okay, and here you can certainly imagine this sick is physically sick or mentally sick. Sure, it should be mentally sick because he feels so terrible about his unbelievable, very, very awful mistake. Okay, so this word agony, although you don't know it, you can certainly guess sick with the agony of his mistake. Agony means something that is not so good. Okay, 所以很多时候有一些字啊，你只要把它就是大略的分成说，ask yourself whether this word is negative or positive， 是正面的还是负面的 ，that's enough. In this case, sick with the agony, so agony must be a negative word. Agony usually means very strong pain， 非常强烈的痛，physical pain or mental pain. Of course, here is this very strong feeling of feeling sorry. Okay. The next paragraph, we're going to see Bob Hoover's reaction. Now we know the young man's reaction, young mechanic's reaction. What about Bob Hoover's reaction? Okay, you can imagine, it says here, you can imagine Hoover's anger. That's right. If you were Bob Hoover, what would you react, right? Okay. One could anticipate the tongue lashing that this proud and precise pilot would unleash for this carelessness. Really, carelessness. Very, very carelessness. 非常的粗心大意啊。He's the mechanic for this airplane. How could he possibly make this kind of terrible mistake? Okay? So it says here, you could imagine how angry Bob Hoover must have been, right? And you could even expect the tongue lashing, this proud and precise pilot would unleash for this carelessness. Okay? Again, there might be some words you don't know, like tongue-lashing and unleash, right? 其实这里是一个形容词子句，这个形容词子句就是什么样的 tongue-lashing 呢？ This pride and precise pilot would unleash the tongue-lashing for that carelessness. Okay, so you know unleash, tongue-lashing. It's together, it's a chunk. Although maybe you don't know what unleash means, what tongue-lashing means, but I guess you can certainly imagine that. Because when somebody is very angry, for example, a mother is very angry because the boy is too naughty, then the mother will begin to scold the boy nonstop, right? Okay, a lot of tongue lashing there. Okay, your tongue, you certainly know what tongue means, right? So you can imagine what unleash tongue lashing means. Okay, so then that's enough. You can move on. And this is called how to read when you do extensive reading. Okay, so this is what we can imagine. Bob Hoover must have been very angry. And then we're going to see the real thing in this story. Okay, let's go on. The last paragraph about this story. But Hoover didn't scold the mechanic. He didn't even criticize him. Instead, he put his big arm around the man's shoulder and said, "To show you, I'm sure that you'll never do this again. I want you to service my F-51 tomorrow." Amazing, right? Amazing ending to the story. It says here, he didn't scold the mechanic, he didn't even criticize him. Not any harsh word, okay? And he even said that he even put his arm around the man's shoulder and said that to show, I'm sure you'll never do this again, okay? And I want you to service my F-51 tomorrow. You want to guess what F-51 means? You can certainly imagine F-51 is an airplane, okay? And he wanted to give the young man one more chance. He wanted the young man to service his airplane tomorrow. Service, you see? Service. 这个字我们也常用啊，通常我们都是说 Thank you very much for your wonderful service. Oh, the service was wonderful. Service is usually used as a noun. 通常是用来当名词用。但你读过这个句子，你马上知道 Here, service is a verb. Service an airplane, service a car. 所以就是我们平常很常讲，你车子要进厂维修一下 Service. Okay, so you learn many nice words there. And you also learn wonderful inspiring words there. Okay, so he said that he wants to give the young man one more chance. Unbelievable, right? Okay, imagine that. It's really not easy, because if you were Bob Hoover, think about it. About 10 minutes ago, you were still up there in the air, and the engine just stopped, and you have to face this life and death situation. Although you landed safely, but the airplane was totally damaged, and it was a very, very dangerous situation. And Bob Hoover, imagine that. He could do this. He could still say something so nice to the young man and gave the young man one more chance. So in this book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie used this story to illustrate one principle about how to deal with people. It is, don't criticize, condemn, or complain, because anybody makes mistakes. Okay, 这是他在那个书里有讲很多的 principles, how you can win friends and influence people. And this is from principle number 1. That's never condemn, complain, or criticize. Okay, this is very difficult to do, but once you read a lot of great real stories like these, it's going to influence you, and it's going to make an impact on you, and you can certainly become a better person yourself. Okay, so this one, 所以这个就是读这些书的好处。You read these stories, your main purpose is not to improve your vocabulary or your grammar, but to get more inspiration. But the benefits is that when you get inspiration, you also improve your vocabulary and grammar in a very natural way because you read a lot, you read extensively, and you read in order to understand the main idea. So a great story like this, because you want to know what's going on, you won't spend too much time think about the words you don't know. You just want to get the main idea and then go on. And by reading this way, you can certainly improve your reading fluency and many other reading skills, especially guessing meaning from context. OK， 好，所以这个就是为什么要做 extensive reading。这些书、这些故事都太精彩了，精彩到你不想为了一两个你不认识的生字而停留下来，你会继续一直读下去。那你很自然就发展出我们说的那些很好的阅读的一些技巧啊，像 guessing meaning from context， 从前后文去猜那个字的意思或猜那个句意，还有你的阅读的速度，自然就会发展出来了 your reading fluency. Okay, so this is a really great book. In this book, there are a lot of great stories like Bob Hoover stories. I hope you'll go to Reading Corner and pick up this book and read some more stories there. Okay, 而且这个书它是里面穿插很多故事，其中有一些故事可能文字比较难像他有提到很多关于 President Lincoln 的故事啊。那如果文字比较难的，你就是大致扫描了解大意就好了。Okay, so this is how you can read. And one more example here is another great book from Reading Corner. This book is called Random Acts of Kindness. Okay, 就是一个random acts. That means you didn't plan to do that. It's just that something you do on the spur of time and you do it randomly. Okay, so that's random acts of kindness. OK， 所以它就是一个出于很自然的自然的一种善行And in this book, there are many stories, and these stories are all random acts of kindness. I picked this story for you because this is a story about a college graduate. I know many of you are going to graduate very, very soon, and you might find this story very practical and very helpful. Okay, and this story is called A Bouquet of Flowers. Bouquet of flowers. Again, you might not know this word bouquet, but when you see flowers, you probably think, oh, okay, that's probably a bunch of flowers. Okay, so if you guess that way, then you were right. Okay, a bouquet means a bunch of flowers, but bouquet is a beautiful word. It's from French. 它是从法文借来的，所以它发音比较特别 ，T 不发音，重音在后面。Bouquet of flowers. Okay, and many other interesting books there. I remember I introduced this book to you last time also when I took you to Reading Corner, right? Larry King's How to Talk to Anyone, Anytime, Anywhere, about good communication, secrets of good communication. I think English, if you're good at English, is very good. But don't forget, English is just a language, a tool. And using the tool, you want to develop you want to have good communication with other people. So communication skills is also something you need to learn, you need to develop. Okay, so 除了英文的能力，其实像这些很好的书Dale Carnegie's books or some books under inspiration, under the category of inspiration. Reading Corner 有很多这些很好的书在 inspiration 这个 category 之下的Okay, so this is about reading part, about extensive reading. So we spent a lot of time talking about how to develop your ability to do extensive reading because we believe extensive reading is really wonderful and you must try it. And I hope you'll create your own good luck for yourself and then you can certainly enjoy reading. So don't forget, after listen to the part about extensive reading, best thing is to do it. Don't just think about it. Please do it. Please go to Reading Corner. Please pick a book you like and please use the correct way to read. Then you can certainly enjoy your reading very much. Okay, thank you very much. I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.